Hello and welcome to Better Wethersfield. I'm your host, Mike Bizzano. I'm joined today by Rob Rodriguez, who is the Public Affairs Specialist for the Social Security Administration here in New Britain, Connecticut. Rob, thank you so much for coming on to the program today.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Well, we do appreciate it. The first thing I want to get to is a lot of folks out there have a bit of a jaded view of what Social Security is. In your own words, could you tell us what Social Security means to you and why the job you perform is so important to so many people?
Well, fantastic. Some people know me as the government guy. But basically, the Social Security program really is extremely important to all of the public, not only here in Connecticut, in Wethersfield, in the New Britain area, but across the nation. And we're basically the largest social insurance program in the country. We've been around for in the month of August, this coming August, we're actually going to be around almost 80 years. I think it's really important that the public recognizes that Social Security is there. We have a lot of money in the kitty. And there's a lot of programs that at some point in time, somebody is going to come knocking at our door. And so we're experiencing that right now.
Now, throughout the years, Social Security has been much maligned in the press. Recently, without getting too political, there's been talk of a government shutdown. We're not going to be able to pay out what we've promised. According to my research, it seems to me like this is a little erroneous for these people to be having these doomsday predictions. Don't you see that Social Security, it is, not only has it worked well since 1935 when it was enacted, but I mean, it's a hallmark of our society, of our progress as a people. What do you say to those critics who say, oh, it's a scheme, or those types of criticisms?
Well, we get a lot of that. And the program has, again, it's been around for, it's going to be 80 years in August of this year. So that kind of attests to the longevity of the program and the importance of the program as well. I mean, we're looking right now at over close to 60 million people that are getting a benefit. And one of the biggest issues that usually comes up is people will ask me, Mike, is it going to be there for me? Younger people will ask me that all the time. And I say, you know what? The program is very solvent, but we are kind of facing three things that are impacting the system. And one of them is is baby boomers. We've got those people born between 1946 and 1964, we have almost 80 million boomers that are coming in the system over the next 20 years. And a lot of these boomers are hitting their retirement years. A lot of people are hitting their disability-prone years. So we've got this wave of baby boomers, if you will, coming in the system. This quote-unquote silver tsunami is already knocking at our door. The second thing is that we have women are having fewer children, which means that there's fewer workers paying into the system. And then the last piece of that puzzle is that we have people are living longer and they're getting checks over a longer period of time. So we kind of recognize that at some point in time, we are going to be facing some problems, and we do. There's always talk about reform, but ultimately, the person who has the last say is actually the Congress and the President. And until they actually sign something that says there's going to be a change, everything is status quo. And I do want to let the public know again that we do offer a lot of programs, Mike. We do make a big difference in a lot of people's lives. And there's always going to be there's a lot of naysayers, but again, the program has been there, it's strong, and it's just part of the American fabric.
Okay, excellent. Going back to what you mentioned there, a lot of people think that Social Security, it's just retirement. It's something that's owed to them because they pay into it. But as you pointed out, Social Security is much more than just retirement. Can you talk a little bit about disability, survivors, some of those other aspects of Social Security and how they affect things?
No problem. I mean, if you will, I asked the public, okay, picture, if you will, a piece of the pie, if you will. And, true, the majority of the pie is retirement. In this, you would kind of see it on a graph. However, not everybody makes it to 62 happy and healthy. And so the next biggest slice of the pie that we're paying out is we're paying out a lot of disability benefits. We've seen in the last couple of years a large uptick in more people applying to get disability benefits. And we kind of think it's because of the economy. You get somebody who's 57 years old, they lost their job, their unemployment ran out, and so they're actually 5 years out from hitting that magic age of 62 for retirement. And so this person's knocking at our door. because they may not have any other source of income. And what I also like to just point out is, on top of giving retirement and disability benefits, I read the obituaries every single day. And we pay out survivor benefits. We pay benefits to widows. We pay benefits to children as well. So this kind of completes the puzzle, if you will, because every single day, I'm sure every individuals pick up the newspaper and they read and take a look at the different ages in which a person passes away. 9 times out of 10, Mike, if somebody has worked and paid into the system, there's going to be some sort of payoff. Again, survivor benefits, 9/11 was a good example, if you will. Parents working in the towers, they passed away, and to this day, a lot of those children are still getting benefits because a parent worked and paid into the system.
Is the issue that we've had too much of a surplus in the past, and now what we're seeing is we don't have those funds that we thought we would at this point in time for the reasons that you mentioned, people having less children, the baby boomers and all that. Is it more of an issue of do we need this program, or is it more of an issue of how do we fund this program? How do we allocate our resources? Do you see Social Security going forward? Do you see your department allocating those resources in a different way than you're doing currently?
Well, the system right now, it's basically a pay-as-you-go system. And right now, individuals, almost 98% of individuals who work, they pay a dedicated payroll tax, specifically to Social Security. Other places, other government agencies can't tap into that. And again, we're looking at basically having money in the trillions in the kitty. There's a lot of revenue that gets generated from the payroll tax. There's also taxation that comes into play that kind of adds to the coffers. And there's always a lot of talk about politicians and dipping their hands in the kitty, but that's not basically the case. Right now, the agency overall only uses about 1% of the total budget to do administration. And if you think about the cost, we're very cost efficient. And so our services are great that we provide, the public.
Only 1%. That's a stat that you don't hear too much, but it's very
Correct.
telling.
That's right. That's correct.
Because it doesn't anger people, I guess. It shows, hey, this money is actually going to where it's supposed to be.
And the thing is, Mike, the impact that we have, across the board is so important, because on top of the retirement and the survivor benefits and disability, we also pay another program that's called supplemental security income. And that program basically is for anybody who's age 65, blind or disabled, and who has limited income and resources. We're gender neutral. I mean, we across the board, somebody who could be homeless to someone who is extremely rich. As long as you've worked and paid into it, that's going to come into play. And we also administer Medicare, which is the health insurance program that a lot of people rely on.
Now, Medicare, is that part of the supplemental security income, or is that part of the Social Security?
It's if you will, it's part of the supplemental security income is just one piece, and Medicare is also another piece. They all fall under the Social Security umbrella.
Okay. So yeah, that caught my attention when researching that the supplemental security. It's not actually from the taxes for the Social Security. It's an entirely different set of funds, if you will. Where do those funds? How are they pulled together exactly? If you could explain.
Well, sure. Basically, what happens is when you work, you're paying, again, 98% of individuals who work and pay into Social Security, you're paying a dedicated payroll tax. There's a percentage goes to the retirement, survivors, and disability, and there's another separate piece of this tax that goes to the health insurance, for the Medicare. The other funds for the SSI come from general program revenues. One of the things, again, that we do have on our website that I do kind of want to mention is we've got tons of statistics and facts that kind of say, this is how it's funded. A lot of information that a person who's interested in the research side of it can basically take a look and say, hey, I need to do some research and find out. But just to give you a quick example, a lot of the money that we had, for example, in 2012, 70% of the income that came in was from payroll taxes, and then the remainder, again, was around $109 billion, was from interest earnings, and then we also get revenue again from taxation of those benefits. So all of that is pulled together, and again, you know, there really is a lot of money in the kitty, and you know, just letting people know that if you need to contact Social Security for some reason, we're there. We have a new campaign that's called Someday. Someday you're going to grab the bull by the horns, or someday you're going to jump out of an airplane, or someday you want to do this and that, but at some point in time, you are going to come knocking at her door. Either yourself or somebody who's within your universe is going to come knocking at her door.
Very true. It's very, you know, it's you know, everyone thinks, oh, I can survive on my own, I can take care of myself, but even the proudest of us, we do have government assistance. That's why it's there, and people shouldn't be afraid or ashamed to take advantage of it. I get your point from that.
Right. And what I want to add to that is that when you think about it, this is actually an insurance. So from the time that you were working as a teenager and you had that money deducted from your check, and you're taking a look at it and say, well, you know, what's this? You're actually paying into a tax in the eventuality that, number one, you are going to reach retirement age. Number two, you know, what if you become disabled? And, you know, what if you were to pass away? What can your survivors get? So it's basically insurance that you're paying in the eventuality that you may hit one of these benchmarks.
Okay, understandable. You mentioned the website. Just so the viewers can know what that is, what is the website again?
What I encourage you to visit is www.socialsecurity.gov. And what's going to happen is you're going to basically be hitting the tip of the iceberg. Whatever you and I are talking about, Mike, again, we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg. The website is an award-winning website. It's got everything from A to Z. It's pretty transparent. There's a ton of things. I was looking a little bit earlier. There's a frequently asked questions site. You can apply to get retirement benefits online. You can apply to get disability benefits online. You can get the forms that we use. There's calculators that you can take advantage of. Let's say you want to move to Myrtle Beach, or if you want to go to somewhere in Arizona.
That'd be pretty nice with the snow we're getting right now, wouldn't it?
Perfect timing. You'd be able to find out what the nearest Social Security office is. There's a locator. You know, basically it tells you about how to get a Social Security card. What if there's information for groups and for businesses and government? Those people who are looking, you say, hey, I have some sort of interest in finding out, you know, what can I get from Social Security, or is there a family member that can qualify? What if I'm somebody who's in HR? Again, somebody who's in the human resources field can tap into the expertise that we have on our website. And this really, again, it's really just the tip of the iceberg.
So socialsecurity.gov, that is the website, just so everyone knows. And for those and there are people out there who don't have internet access, there's a phone number as well, I believe, that they could contact. If we don't have that now, I'm sure we can provide that later. Oh, we do? Okay.
We do have the number. It's 1-800-772-1213. And that number basically is our toll-free number. It's open from Monday to Friday from 7 in the morning to 7 at night. And again, by contacting the number, if you contact us early in the morning, pretty much it's usually good. And I know sometimes during the peak hours of between like 9 to 3 or so, it becomes a little hectic. But then you can also, you know, pick us up on the backside by calling the 800 number.
Okay. So, Rob, you mentioned the hours there. I just want to touch on that. You have new field office hours. Is that correct? And if so, what are those hours?
Yes, thanks, Mike. Basically, starting effective with March the 16th, all field offices across the nation are going to have new hours that are kind of going to be beneficial to the public. The way it stands right now is the office is open Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 9 until 3 o'clock. But now, as of March the 16th, it's now going to jump from 9 in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
The commissioner recognizes that for the hours that we have right now are not maybe as super convenient, if you will, for a lot of the public. So we've added on an hour because we've had some more funding for that. But I do want to mention that every Wednesday, the offices are going to continue to stick with the same schedule, which is going to be from 9 in the morning until 12 o'clock noon. And so we close our doors on Wednesdays at 12 noon because the staff is going to continue to work backlogs. And so we need a little bit of downtime to be able to work backlogs and other program workloads that we have.
Okay, great. Thank you for explaining that. Talking about your own family, your own personal experience, could you illustrate a time or a family member who has really benefited from some of these programs who basically wouldn't have had another option out there? Are there any, or even not a family member, but are there any particular stories which really resonate with you and what you do and how you help people?
I always try to take and put myself in someone else's shoes, and I've been with the agency almost 30 years. And I've seen tons and tons of situations where we've helped a lot of people, and people have come to us. So to give you an example, when 9/11 happened, we actually set up a contact station so that we were able to touch base with survivors and take claims for, say, for a child from a parent who passed away. If there's a plane crash out somewhere out west, again, we enact emergency procedures where we can have a field office set up or contact individuals to apply for the appropriate benefits. And, for myself, just a personal example, my stepfather drowned in the Connecticut River in about 2001 or 2002. And at that time, he always worked and paid into the system. And I have a little brother who, at the time, was about 15 or 16 years old. So based on the fact that he had worked and his father had worked and paid into the system, he was able to get a monthly benefit. And, this is something that we see played out every single day. We've got 15 field offices here in Connecticut, and we see high numbers of people that are continuing to come into the office for a variety of reasons. But, we have helped, just countless numbers of people. If it weren't for Social Security, Mike, a lot of people sometimes would find themselves, in poverty. And I just ended up getting something off of the system. Just to give you a quick example, 65% of aged beneficiaries receive at least half of their income from Social Security. 55% of adult Social Security beneficiaries in 2013 were women. 53 and a half is the average age of somebody who was a disabled worker in 2013. And also, 5.5 million people were newly awarded Social Security benefits in 2013. Those numbers speak volumes.
Absolutely. And they seem to speak to the necessity of government control over these funds. A lot of people think that a private control would be beneficial. I don't necessarily agree with that. What would be your response to that in terms of these funds being allocated in such a way?
Well, again, there's a lot of individuals out there who may toss out these different scenarios and say, hey, why don't you put money over here or do this and that? But ultimately, Mike, the people who decide is going to be Congress and the President. So when they sign something that says, hey, this is where it's going to go. Right now, we're set and steady with what we offer everybody. And again, we offer a wide array of different programs. And one of the pieces of information that I like to tell a person is don't listen to Cousin Eddie or Uncle Joe. Your best bet is to come right to the Social Security website and visit the website and, or to contact us and say, hey, I have a burning question and I have some curiosity, because I've seen people over the years